What's up? So I was sitting here, as one does. By the way, I tried to close these blinds and it's still bright as hell, so that's gonna be how it is. But I was sitting here, I was bored, Saturday, all that stuff, and I was thinking about the fact, hey, like, why is it that having dreams is like such a chore? Like it feels as though that having dreams has become a thing that is a bit more like a superficial thing than a real thing. And you kind of see it in terms of how people posture the topic of dreams and aspirations and stuff. Like people will toss it in or throw it, but the actual care and like desire feels like almost like a foreign concept. It's just the words and all that stuff kind of in a sense like become like it's like those like chocolate eggs in during Easter where it's like let's think you imagine it full of stuff, but then you break into it and it's hollow. That's what it feels as though the way people talk about dreams and aspirations is. You kind of see it a lot as people get older, that those kind of words and those things they move from a thing that they're like, oh shoot, like maybe I actually have a chance or whatever, to over and over and turn into like a joke almost. Like it's like, oh, I remember when I used to want to do this, or I remember when I used to want to do that. This is not just a career thing. This is a thing that applies to everything. We're talking physical fitness. We're talking the people you want to date, the places you want to live, I don't know, just all that stuff. Having kids, not having kids, wanting to travel, wanting to do whatever. It feels as though those things just die out. Like as you get older, that you kind of just compromise your life in pretty much every aspect because it's too tough to live in that unknown and fear and all that stuff. So immediately once you hit that point, you go right back. It's like in Finding Nemo or whatever, where the fish are not allowed to swim up past that like trench thing or that the drop off. That's kind of, I feel like people see that kind of stuff. They like look over and they're like, no, I'm not gonna do that one. I'll leave that for someone else. And they talk as if that they still maybe have a shot at doing this thing or that thing. But what happens is you compromise. You get older. You get more tired. Things add up. You get into relationships. You have kids. You go through divorce. If you do, probably a good chance. You go through all these things, and what they do is they kind of add almost like a bit of a callus to you, to the point where you see any of that stuff they used to say as something that like it just fades away over time. Like it's something that maybe was a thought that, hey, I might actually be able to do this, to now to where it becomes something where you're like, yeah, this is something I couldn't do, but wasn't it crazy when I did this thing or that thing, thinking about that. And I think that kind of sucks because it's like regret is like the worst thing in the world. Like what kind of doesn't sit right with me is not trying. Like I'm okay if I fail or if this person fails or that person fails, but when someone doesn't try, but then they talk as if they will or they would have or this, it doesn't feel right because ultimately you have the ability to try. You could be working unlimited hours, you could be in a terrible relationship, you could be in all these spots, and you have the ability to at least do something about it, even if that doesn't work out. You could try to do a side hustle while you're working this crummy job, and hey, maybe it doesn't work out, but you can at least do the try part. You can at least have that part. When there's no try, and it's just a thought, the try might as well with that dream, because it's never even an entertained thing. And I think that most times people like they kind of get to that point where they're like so close to think about trying, but they never do. And I think a lot of times that when I'm saying this stuff, you're thinking career, you're thinking job, you're thinking all this stuff, but I don't think people understand how over like every aspect of life this is. Like I'm talking this stuff that, hey, like when you're by yourself and you're trying to understand who you are and why you feel like you don't fit in, or why you wonder why part of yourself feels distant, or why this, that, and you kind of are almost in this like, you kind of feel like you're kind of stuck in this same spot like a carousel, and you're wondering, hey, how do I get out of this spot? How do I at least just feel better mentally? But then you just kind of like, you think about getting off the carousel, but you just never quite make that effort, and that thought just never leaves your system, because ultimately, if you feel unfulfilled or whatever, unless you just distract yourself to hell and beyond and might as well be in a different planet with the amount of drugs, alcohol, and things you do, you're going to be thinking about that kind of stuff, because unfulfillment and like kind of feeling like one of those puzzles that isn't quite full is not a feeling that you can kind of just brush off. It's in my 24 years of living, there's never been one time where I've had that feeling and been like, okay, I can just ignore that and move on with my day. Because I think there's a part of all of us that want to feel complete. Like we want to feel things that make it so that we kind of don't have to necessarily worry. Like we don't want to feel like we're missing parts of ourselves. And that's one of the big reasons why I feel like a lot of people try and rush into getting a relationship or any of that stuff is because they look for the partner to do that. And now love is the best thing in the world. It's the most amazing thing. And the partner, who you date, who you like marry, who you spend your time with, that whole thing, who you have kids with, very, very important. But there also is a certain importance to the person you are going into that relationship and throughout that relationship that isn't really shined on. There's no attempt really made there in a lot of cases for people to develop that person before they go into it. What happens is we go through schooling, go through whatever, and the second you go out of schooling or you're in college or you get out of college, you're just like, okay, I need to find a person to date, I need to get married, I need all this stuff. There's no thought or there's no process of like, okay, who am I? What can I do to make myself feel as good as I can by myself, where I can go into a relationship or go into a long-term thing and not need to be dependent on that person to be happy. Like I can be happy enough to where I can support and be there, be present for that person, and they can do the same for me without exhausting each other's batteries and putting all our weight and all our problems on them. And the power in that is so important. But the thing is, if you never see it, if you never actually see it go in your life, like how the hell are you gonna know what it could be? Like a lot of the things, if it feels like that there's a lot of things out there that we kind of know. It's like if we make that attempt to do that thing, like there's at least a chance that we could feel better or have more confidence or all these things. But I think that there's a lot of times where it's just easy to go to the knee-jerk reaction of, okay, I need this thing or that thing in order to cope with this thing instead of finding a solution for this thing. So I'm not trying to find something to fill that void. It's like, oh, if we're alone on the weekends, going through stuff, it's like, okay, let me drink, let me smoke, let me do this XXX rated thing. Let me do that thing versus having that time and having that patience to sit there where you feel terrible, you're bored as hell, and you're sitting there by yourself and be like, you know what? Hey, why do I feel this way when I'm by myself? Why can't I myself feel good when I don't have anything else? Why is it that I need all these things to feel good? Why isn't my baseline not good or at least okay? Or because obviously you have your days where you're sad, you have your days where you're going through stuff, but at least it kind of seems like a crazy thing to be happy and to be good, with just being with yourself. I find it so easy to hear people or even myself, it can be easy to be like, okay, I'm doing this thing and this thing makes me happier hanging out with this person. But you never talk about I'm happy. Oh, I was just chilling with myself and I felt good. I felt happy. It's always a negative associated to that. And the tricky part of that is that not everything works out. Relationships don't always work out. Divorces happen, breakups happen, a lot of things. There's tragedies that happen where a spouse could die. You could have whatever. There's a trillion different things that could happen to anyone at any time. You don't know. You can't control that. But so you're going to be in a spot no matter what, whether it's at 30 or at 75, you're going to be in a spot where you're alone and you kind of need that happiness or joy, or you're going to be feeling crummy. Because what I was saying with the energy and with the stuff, at a certain point, you're not going to be able to do the things that you once did. So you're going to be stuck sitting there at 80 in a retirement home and be like, dang, I really hate myself. I really don't like this. And so it's you're going through hell for the next however many years you live. And that sucks. That really does suck. So I think that there's so much impetus, and I don't even know if that's the right way to use that word, but there's so much I think that should be placed on the try aspect of loving who you are, understanding who you are, kind of getting almost a bit like becoming friends with yourself before you go into anything else. And I think that foundation is how you discover purpose, passion, and that stuff. I don't think you can have any of that stuff if you're not friends with this person. If you're not good with being with yourself, it's going to be impossible to be able to see okay, that's what I should be doing. you're already distracted because you're finding ways to avoid the fact that you don't like yourself. Like loving yourself, becoming a friend with yourself is the way to get that kind of stuff. It allows for your relationships and for your friendships to not be something where you're like, oh, I'm putting my sadness, my everything on you, and then I expect you to carry the weight of that, and then you do the same. Like it's one of those things where you kind of both are in thing. So you guys, it's like an additional. It's an adding thing versus a subtracting thing. Like you hang out with them, you do whatever, but you're not dependent on them to feel the emotions that you want to feel. They enhance your life, but you're not dependent on them in order to do it. Because when you're dependent on things that are outside of yourself, it eventually it's gonna sour or taint them because you can't find answers for that kind of stuff in other people and other things when you're supposed to. Like, not saying that, hey, like it's not more fun usually to hang out with friends or to be in love than it is by yourself. Obviously it's more fun, but at least have that baseline. I feel like the baseline is just way too low and it should be higher. And I think the kind of in between of this stuff is the trying, the failing, the whatever, that mindset, even just to like, hey, I'm just going to keep doing stuff and see what works and kind of seeing how to get to that spot. This video is kind of all over the place, but I just really like talking about it. So yeah, does anyone else think about this stuff? Do y'all like to, do y'all have anything you want to do, or do you guys like yourself? I don't know. But yeah, how would I say I love you guys?